To the rules and procedures that will follow for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Town of Babylon Zoning Board of Appeals. The following is the procedure that will be followed tonight. The matters will be called in the order they appear on the calendar, with adjourned matters being called at the end of the regularly scheduled matters. Matters cannot be heard prior to their published scheduled time. When your matter is called, please submit the affidavit of posting to the secretary and proceed to the podium and give your name and address. The chairperson will then swear you in and read into the record information we have from your application, comments from various town departments, and any correspondence received on your application. The chairperson will then ask you to make whatever presentation you wish to make to the board. After you have made your presentation, the board will ask whatever questions the board deems appropriate, and then we will ask for comments from the public. If you wish to speak for or against an application, we ask that you wait until you're acknowledged. Come forward, give us your name and address, tell us where your property is in relation to the property that's in question tonight, and then please direct your comments to the board, not the applicant or the applicant's representative. We have to keep a record, and we cannot do that if there are people talking over each other or cross conversations. If someone has spoken for or against an application, and they have said exactly the same thing that you wish to say, it will have the same force and effect in the record if you give your name and address, are sworn in, and say that you join in those comments. If you have anything additional to say, please don't hesitate to do so, but keep in mind that you will be given only one opportunity to speak. After the public has spoken, the board may ask the applicant to come back to answer any questions that may have come up as a result of the public comments, or for the applicant to summarize. When the applicant comes back to answer any additional questions, if that happens, that does not start a second round of public comments. Once the matter has been heard, various things may occur. The board may decide the application immediately. It may reserve decision. If the board reserves decision, that does not mean the matter is approved or denied. It just means that the board needs more time to decide, may want to go out and look at the site again, or might want to review the documents and testimony further before making a decision. In either event, the applicant will receive the board's decision in writing shortly after the board makes its decision. If the application is approved, that does not mean that you can then go ahead and start construction or whatever it is that you requested from the board. You will have to wait for the building permit to be obtained from the building department before your go-ahead. On some occasions, the matter may be continued for another night. If it is continued, in most cases it will be for the submission of documents, a new survey, new plans, or something of that nature. If that's the case, no one needs to come back on the new date. The documents will be submitted and no further testimony will be taken. On rare occasions, a matter may be continued for future testimony. If that's the case, then people would have to come back to testify. If matters are adjourned at an open meeting on the scheduled date of hearing, no further notice need be given unless specifically required by the board on the date the adjournment is granted. 3 rules that may affect your ability to proceed tonight. 1. If the sign was not posted for 10 days, we cannot hold the hearing tonight. 2. If you commence this proceeding while you own the property, but no longer own the property, and you are here now to continue with the application, you will need either the written consent of the new owner or the new owner to be present for the hearing. This situation could come about if you sold your house or building, money was held in escrow at closing for a certificate of occupancy or permit, and you're here tonight to clear that up. Lastly, if your application is a commercial application, and it's other than a renewal, and there is more than one tenant in the building, then you need your landlord to be here. Is there any applicant that has any difficulty with those situations and would need an adjournment tonight?
Is there anyone that would need an adjournment? Please rise and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First application tonight is application 24-192 of Karen Capellan, property located in West Babylon. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Richard Bronchick, 87 Rhoda Avenue, North Babylon, New York.
Okay, and you are here as?
I'm here as the representative of the
Okay.
of the owner.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there is an owner authorization.
There is, okay.
Yeah.
That was my
And
question.
unfortunately, she couldn't get out of work in time.
That's fine. Hold on. For the record, we have a planning division memo dated October 15, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map. Survey by Brian Drucker dated May 16, 2024. Environmental control memo dated October 18, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact.
And Mr. Chairman, we have 6 photos.
Correspondence in the board's packet, it's item number 1.
Okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
We're seeking to reduce the west side yard requirement from 6 feet to 2 feet for proposed one-car detached garage, and also requesting a reduction in the front yard setback from 30 feet to 26.7 feet for a proposed 32-square-foot uncovered front deck. Regarding the garage, the property is 60 by 125, relatively long but narrow. If you look at the survey, the site plan, there's really no, you can see there's really no other place to locate the garage in order to comply with the required setback. Regarding the uncovered front, the front deck, as per the site plan, the proposed deck maintains the current allowed encroachment of the front stoop, so it will be the same depth as the front stoop and will not extend any further toward the front yard property line than currently exists. And there's also a letter, I believe, that you have in your file from a neighbor on the west side of the property. That's the side of the property that the proposed garage will be on, who consents to the variance. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Turn the hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
Good evening, how are you?
Hi.
Good. Do you plan on extending the driveway at all, width-wise?
No, I spoke with the owner specifically about this. She has no plans at the moment of extending the driveway.
Okay. And would you agree if we were to approve this, that there be no habitable space in the garage, no commercial work permitted in the garage, and that the front deck not be further enclosed?
Yes, I've already consulted her, and she's agreed to all these conditions. We saw the planning memo and everything, and then we agreed to everything there.
Great. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve application 24-192 with the conditions mentioned in the planning memo. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Next application is application 24-169 of Stephen and Kathleen Cohn as trustees for the Cohn Irrevocable Trust, property located in Copeg.
Good evening.
Hey, name and address for the record?
My name is Melissa Graham. I'm from Long Island Perfect Permits. We are located at 124 Front Street, Suite 205, Massapequa Park, 11762, and we are the agent representing Stephen and Kathleen Cohen.
And do you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
For the record, we have a planning division memo dated October 15th, 2024. A survey by Razam Ali dated August 8th, 2023. Tax map acting as an area map. Environmental control memo dated October 21st, 2024. It's just you should have gotten a copy of this.
Yes.
Okay, so you just got, there's wetlands there that you might have to get a permit for. And
And Mr. Chairman, we have 13 photos and a drawing by Joseph M. Bilello, dated 2/26/2026.
Okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
Okay, so an application was filed to maintain an existing deck, hot tub, a bricked paved patio, and 2 sheds. Because this is a 2-story dwelling, the maximum building area is 1,893.3 feet, which is 18%. The application is to maintain a building area of 3,795 square feet, which brings it up to 30%. My client purchased the property in 2022. The deck, hot tub, and sheds were all installed prior to the purchase of the property. My client has spoken to his neighbors. They don't really have any issues with the variances being granted. I did read the notes that were submitted, and I did speak to my client who is going to remove the 3rd plastic shed that was in question.
Thank you. Turn
You're
the
welcome.
hearing over to Mr. Delavecchio.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So everything that is there now was there previously before the unit owner?
Correct. He
purchased-
bought everything existing.
Okay, and you guys agree to remove the plastic shed?
He agreed to move it, yes.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none.
I'll make a motion to approve application 24-169 with the condition that the plastic shed be removed prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy.
Second.
Favor?
Okay, thank you, have a good night.
You too. Next application is application 24187 of Robert Perticone, property located in West Babylon. Name, address for the record.
Charles Lembo, architect, 410 West Montauk Highway, Lindenhurst, New York.
Okay. And you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
For the record, we have a planning division memo dated October 15, 2024. A survey by Aerial Land Surveying dated October 22nd, 2021. Tax map acting as an area map. Environmental control memo dated October 18th, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. And,
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 photos.
okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
Sure. Before I get into what I am doing, we were originally asking for 3 variances, one of them for an oversized garage exceeding area and height requirements. I was able to convince my client that that had 0 chance of getting approved, and so he finally acquiesced, and now I'm removing that from this application, and I have revised drawings with a fully compliant accessory garage. Do I hand them up to you, or do I bring them to the zoning office?
You can hand them up to us. Then they'll review them. So I will make a motion on application 24-187 to eliminate the 3rd variance to increase the height of the accessory building garage from 14 to 18.6. All in favor? Okay. what does
Okay.
that tell us?
The other 2 variances that we are looking to move forward to achieve, we're looking to diminish the front yard setback from 30 feet to 10.1 for the addition of a new portico over the existing entry. It's important to know that the building front facade is currently only 15.7 feet from the front property line, so we're only looking to encroach an additional 5.5 feet with this open canopy portico. And then the other variance we're requesting is increase the total lot coverage from 30% to 49.72%, the majority of that being a parking area in the back of the 2-family residence and the area of this accessory garage. One other thing, there was a comment in the planning memo asking to clarify the, who's living in the house. Currently, the property owner does live in the house. He does not have the 2nd unit rented yet, but when he goes to rent it, he will apply for the rental permit as requested.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn the hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
We got a lot going on here. What is going on in that backyard?
Well, right now, it's just paved.
and striped. You got more parking spaces back there than some of the retail stores around.
I suppose, but,
Serious, you got 14 spaces, striped.
well, not once you put the garage there. He tends to get ahead of himself, but he wanted to make sure there was enough parking for his, his unit and the accessory apartment, and then he decided to propose the garage. So part of that area is going to be blocked up with the garage now, and
What
it's
does he
only a
need
two-car.
14 spaces for? Well, even with the garage, you still put 2 cars in front of that, and you still got 14.
If he striped it for 14, I have no idea. I did not indicate that. I just indicated a paved area. I anticipated maybe parking for 4 cars plus the garage. It's just a residence. He's not conducting any business out of there. He's not proposing any sort of outdoor storage. I don't know why he striped it 14. I don't know.
The only thing's missing is the handicap space.
I'm sure he's got room to put one if he wants.
All right, well, so if we approve this, would you agree that the front portico not be further enclosed?
Yes,
No habitable space in the garage?
yes,
And no commercial work is permitted in the garage?
yes.
Or in the parking lot?
Or in the parking lot.
Yeah. I have no further questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board?
What, but can we get some green in there or something? Can we get shrubbery? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he's currently proposing landscaping around the perimeter, but I could also have him add some landscaping along the edge of the parking area that's paved along the back end of the house. I don't think he'd have a problem doing that. I could have him landscape the front as well with some kind of low shrubs. That's easy.
I'm talking about the backyard. How are you going to rent to people and then there's no yard, there's no backyard at all, it's all paved?
No, yeah, there is. Are you guys looking at the same drawing?
I'm looking at.
Can I approach?
I did a drive-by.
You gotta go back to the mic, please.
So the whole east side of the property is proposed to be grass. The parking area ends in line with the east wall of the house. The south wall of the house. So the south side of the property is all lawn, and the paving is proposed to end at the south wall of the house and go west to east. So only the northern half of the property will be paved when this is all done, and the southern half is all lawn.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. We're going to close the hearing. We're going to reserve decision. You'll get the decision in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bingo. Next applications are application 24, 189A and 189B. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Nicole Blanda. I'm an attorney at Bazell, Blanda, and Visconti with offices at 535 Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
Okay, for the record, we have a planning division memo on application A dated October 15, 2024. We have the same memo, looks like. Yes, we have the same memo basically on application 24, 189B. We have environmental control memo on that same application dated October 22nd, 2024. If we were to approve this application, it would need a negative declaration. We have a tax map acting as an area map. We have a site survey by William Simmons dated 3/16/22 on the A application. We have a survey on the B application, also dated 3/16/22, and we have an overall, also on 3/16/22 by William Simmons, dated 3/16/22. And
Mr. Chairman, we have 4 photographs on Lot 1 and 5 5 photographs on Lot 2.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to tell us about the application?
I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owner, GNR Building Corp., seeking variances in connection with this two-lot subdivision. It's located on the east side of Monroe Street, about 100 feet north of Lincoln Avenue in Farmingdale. It is currently vacant land and has a lot area of 11,714 square feet. It's zoned Residence B, and it's immediately abuts industrially zoned properties to the north. This is a short, dead-end street, and the road is not fully improved here. There's only 17.5 feet of asphalt road here currently. I have some photos that I will hand up to the board in a few minutes. The house across the street from our property has a driveway on Monroe. The corner houses have driveways that face Lincoln. So in other words, there's only one driveway that lets out onto Monroe currently. This lot has 118.86 feet of frontage on Monroe, which is an odd number. The tax map says 120 feet. The tax assessor bill says 125. However, when it actually got surveyed, it came out to 118.86 feet. The owner has spoken with the neighbors. He did go door to door in this little corridor. We do have 2 letters in support. One from the neighbor that lives immediately across the street on Monroe at 41 Monroe Street, and one from the neighbor that's immediately behind us to the east at 52 Jackson, and I'll hand those up as well. The owner did try knocking on the doors of the corner properties, but unfortunately, those homeowners were not at home, and I believe one of the houses is actually rented. We are seeking to subdivide this property into 2 lots, each having the same variances, reducing the lot area from 10,000 square feet required to 5,857 square feet, reducing frontage from 100 feet required to 59.34 feet, and reducing the rear yards from 40 feet required to 25 feet. The proposal meets the front yard setbacks and the side yard setbacks. Given that the property does abut industrially zoned properties on Toledo Street and Rome Street, you head into that whole industrial area, the property owner felt it was important to maintain the side yards, and so has given a 12-foot and an 18-foot side yard on each proposed property. Until recently, the board might remember that the Residence B code did provide that if you were in Residence B and you had less than 125 feet of depth, but a minimum of 100 feet of depth, you were allowed to have a 25-foot rear yard. I know that's no longer the case. I understand there was a code amendment, but there were many applications approved that did allow for a 25-foot rear yard in Res B zone for that very reason. The applicant here didn't do a single and separate search. I suppose if we do a single and separate and it came back single and separate, then we would be, permitted to have a 25-foot rear yard here. Each dwelling proposed would have 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. One of the benefits of constructing 2 homes here is that each home would be at a lower purchase price than if one home was built here. These are smaller homes, they would be on smaller lots, and given the low inventory of new homes in the area, he would be able to do a lower purchase price point. He would also be improving the rest of Monroe Street. So in other words, if you look at the overall survey, you can see that there's asphalt for 17.5 feet. There's also an indication of dirt area along the entire length of this property. That dirt area would become improved roadway, fully equipped with drainage. When he talked to the neighbor across the street, they had indicated that there's currently some runoff issues. We believe that the new drainage, once installed, would handle the stormwater and would prevent any flooding or runoff issues at that point. When we look at the surrounding area at the radius map, 500 feet and 200 feet and a 500 foot, it does include within its reach many industrial zone properties that are located to the north on Toledo and Rome Street. And clearly industrial properties are not in character with the residential. So if we do look a little beyond the radius, along Lincoln Avenue, only 4 blocks from Monroe to the west, and 2 blocks outside the radius map, there is Washington Street. I have some aerials that I'll also hand up to the board with the other things that I spoke about. If we look at Washington Street, there are 3 houses on each side of that street, And then on, I believe it's Baiting Hollow, there's also 3 houses. So while I do understand that within the 200-foot, in this enclave, we see 4, we see 4, we see 4, I can't deny that. You can look at the picture yourselves. But if you do go a little further down Lincoln Avenue, tax lots 15.1 and 15.2, they are 52 and 56 Washington Street East. They each are substandard. One is 60 by 94, which is a 5,640 square foot lot. The other one is 65 by 94, so you have 6,110. These homes were built back when high ranches were allowed, so late 80s, early 90s. Also tax lot 17.2 and 17.6, again on Washington Street East, 62 by 94 and 63 by 94. High ranch style homes again, so late 80s, early 90s, because then after that the board prohibited high ranch style homes. I would imagine because these are subdivisions on substandard parcels that there should be some ZBA approvals. I was unable to obtain copies of those approvals at this point. However, if the board was interested in seeing those, I'd be happy to request them. So that is just to give an idea of another little dead-end street that does have more than the 4 houses. And again, right now, there is only one driveway that comes out onto Monroe on this dead-end street. This is a vacant property, so it's not like we're asking to take down an existing house to split. The other properties are developed with houses that are centrally located, so this is distinguishable from those. We do agree to all the covenants. They would be single-family homes, owner-occupied, no accessory apartments, the whole shebang, all 13 of the covenants. I do want to hand up the 2 letters in support. I have pictures of the dirt roadway, as well as an aerial that shows Washington Street, and then I printed out tax assessor records for the 4 tax lot numbers that I discussed in my presentation. So I'm going to hand that up now.
Thank you.
If the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So, why has this property been vacant so long?
It's a very good question. I'm not sure why it's been on the market. I don't. This was recently purchased in the last couple of years, last few years. Prior to that, I don't know why no one developed it.
Just curious why that would be. It seems like,
It's like the last piece there, yeah.
that's the only vacant lot there. And you have agreed to all of the comments, restrictions, and conditions if we were to approve this application?
Absolutely, yep.
And why can't it be 1 dwelling instead of 2?
Look, I can't deny that there's obviously profit to be made. He's a builder. But the idea was these could be sold at a lower purchase price than 1, because 1 would be on larger land, it would be a considerably larger home. So being smaller houses, it's an opportunity to build 2. New homeowners have more inventory then to choose from at a lower price point. The builder makes a nice profit, everyone's happy.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. So we're going to close the hearing, and we're going to reserve decision. We'll get the decision in the mail. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Okay. Number 3? Okay. For the record. Okay. Next application is application 24-191 of Specialty Hearst, an ambulance sales corp, property located in Farmingdale.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for your time. So my name is Andrew Pressberg. I'm an attorney for the applicant, 100 Corporate Plaza, Islandia, New York. And just to clarify the application, it had 3 variances, but 2 variances had already been granted and they're moot. They were put in by mistake, an error by my office, actually. The only thing up for is the renewal of the special permit for for auto repair for his inventory.
Okay, let me read all this.
Yep.
Okay. We have a planning division memo dated October 22nd, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map. A survey by Robert Holtzman dated May 12th, 2012. Environmental control memo dated October 21st, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in a significant impact. Suffolk County Planning memo dated October 15th, 2024. Decision of local determination. Take no position for or against. And
Chairman, we have 4 photographs. And Mr. Chairman, we have a fire marshal memo dated October 24th, 2024. The applicant has a valid fire prevention permit.
thank you. So that, all we're doing here is requesting for the special exception permit. The other variances have been,
They were granted
Approved.
years ago.
They were
Yeah.
granted.
So this is just a renewal of the public garage repair.
Nikki, I would recommend if you were to move on it, then for this one, those would just have, would be one would have a term on it, and the other ones would just be approved.
so can we eliminate them now or wait till we're done?
Wait for the decision,
Okay,
just for record keeping.
okay. Okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
So this property at 5860 Engineers Lane in Farmingdale has been there with this special exception for the last 12 years. It's a town IDA project. It's in an industrial zone. It's at the end of a dead-end street. It's at the end of the cul-de-sac. So the company sells and maintains hearses, ambulances, and limousines and specialty vehicles. And they maintain them under contract as well for companies like Northwell Health. So they do some repairs to the vehicles and they have maintenance contracts for people that they sell and service to. Over the years, their inventory has grown and we've had site plan revisions, increasing the allowance of what we needed to store there for the inventory is in the rear. So rather than have formal parking spots, we have basically like car dealer parking. I've led the planning board memo, and there was overflow onto the street in the cul-de-sac. Don't deny that because at times he's had staging of ambulances waiting to come in to be serviced, and it's ended up in the cul-de-sac, by sheer requirement, just because it was overflow and they couldn't get into the lot for service. So I'm not going to deny that it existed, although he does clean it up. And his inventory levels change from time to time, obviously, depending upon his ability to sell and service these vehicles. We have also made arrangements for other storage in another location right across the street, and so that will alleviate some of that excess inventory parking and keep the vehicles off the cul-de-sac. The neighbors have, I'm not saying it's justified, but we've had no complaints from neighbors. We're not interfering with anything. We're at the end of a dead-end street, and sometimes it happens. So, in answer to the planning board's, notation, that's being addressed. And the day after, and it's been cleared up as we speak. I think in the front of where that's raised for employee parking, we don't have that many employees that fill that parking anyway. He did have some vehicles, inventory, for lack of a better word, which are these hearses and ambulances and flower cars and things, and limousines customized in some of the spots. I think now there are 3 in the front, none in the street, everything in the back. So, this application is just to continue to allow him to repair the vehicles, which is incidental to his sales of these vehicles.
Okay, so it's basically repair work, service work, that kind of stuff, why these vehicles are sitting out there, or?
Correct. They're being either customized because they need new lights or sirens, or they're waiting to be repaired. So because he sells these vehicles, and then as part of that sale, he does service them.
He does service them, Okay, and you have an agreement with somebody else there where you're storing some of these, so they're not out?
Yeah, across the street, I think it's 55 engineers
Okay,
that we have a lease for right across the street, starting November 1st.
starting over, okay, all right, and, you know,
And we have cleaned it up as of this week as well.
okay,
You know, it's clear a lot of times, and sometimes it would happen that it overflowed.
okay. Well, at least you're doing something about it in any
Yes.
event. All right. Okay, any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? Okay. We're going to close the hearing. We're going to reserve decision to get the decision in a minute.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next application is application 24179 of Simply the Best Auto Collision, property located in Deer Park.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record.
Ramona Jean Charles, 45 Fairfield Drive, Dix Hills, New York, 11746.
Sir?
Beauvoir Jean Charles, 45 Fairfield Drive, Dixhill, New York, 11746.
Okay, and do you both affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated October 15th, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map. A survey by Nathan Taft Corin, land surveyor. Last dated November 1st, 2023. Environmental control memo dated October 21st, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. And,
Mr. Chairman, we have 13 photos.
okay, what,
Mr. Chairman, we have a fire marshal memo dated October 24th, 2024. The application has a valid fire prevention permit.
okay. What would you like to tell us about the application?
Yes. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to allow us to speak to you. We are here today to request that our CEVO be renewed for Simply the Best Auto Collision in Deer Park. It has been our pleasure to serve the community since 1990, providing excellent automotive services, and we have also been proud residents of the town of Abilene since 1983. We look forward to being able to continue to serve the good people of the community for another 5 years if the COO is approved and renewed. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn the hearing over to Mr. Kretschmer.
Good evening. How is everybody today?
Good, sir.
I was by there today. Looks very well kept, well organized, nice and clean and neat. Good
Thank you, sir.
operation. Thank you. The only question I have is there a reason why you allowed it to expire in 2020 and didn't file for your renewal earlier?
What happened was, I remember you guys handed me an application for outside storage, but the landlord won't be able to meet the demand. That's the only reason it's been expired.
Because of the outside storage wasn't available, or?
Exactly. So when the town sent the guy to inspect the vehicle, they inspect the yard. So when he came back, they tell us they need some kind of architect plan. And when I explained to my landlord, he told me, Jim, nothing changed. Probably everything's still the same. So what they're talking about?
So that meant that you didn't come by and renew the application?
And
Doesn't
I
make any
did,
sense.
and time passed until now. That's why we came back to renew it.
Okay, that was my only concern, that you know, that's not really a valid reason for not renewing.
Yes, sir.
You know, but like I said, everything looks good. It's got a valid fire marshal's permit, and would you agree to all the existing covenants and restrictions? And,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Can we just confirm there is no outdoor storage in that side yard? You're not storing any vehicles or anything inside, right?
No storage outside.
No, ma'am.
I didn't see anything questionable today when
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
He's decided to come forward now.
Now, what brings you here today rather than,
4 years ago.
I'm sorry?
why are you here today rather than coming 4 years ago? Did you have a complaint or something?
No, no.
We never have a complaint.
We're just here today to ask for the CVO to be renewed.
So you're asking for the CO, or you have intentions of selling the business or?
No, no. I have a little while to retire from my own job. Yeah, I'm a mail carrier since 1997, so I still have another couple of years to go.
And my daughter not even graduate college yet. I'm still have.
Hofstra.
So what we're asking is, what compelled you to come all of a sudden now? What, you know,
So what happened is, it's always good to keep everything in order. You know, so it's not good to let this CO expire too long. And we'll make sure everything stay updated.
you just woke up and decided and realized that it was expired, or that?
No,
No.
Did you get a letter from us, or?
No. No. We don't.
Okay, so just housekeeping, you try and get all your ducks in a row and get everything above
yes,
board.
especially
Get
with
a
a
valid
landlord.
CO.
Yes,
Because right now you don't have a valid CO.
that's
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay. Did you need to produce a valid CO for any particular reason, as far as a paint booth or anything?
No, I already got the pen
Maybe
booth.
for the landlord,
Since, we have a pen booth since 2014. And we got fire suppression, we got the permit from the town.
Right, you have a
We
valid
com-
fire permit. we see that.
Yes, we completely legit.
Okay. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record,
Did planning want to have the call and connection amended? Yes, it should be previously approved for 3 years, not 2 years.
oh, yeah, okay. I'll make a motion to amend the application that it should have been for 3 years instead of 2.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're going to close the hearing. We're going to reserve decision. You get the decision in the mail. Thanks for
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next application is,
Chairman, I need to recuse.
Mr. Shepherd is going to recuse on this application. So it's application 24-182 of OK Petroleum Distribution.
No, we're doing Dave Penn.
Oh.
185.
Oh, sure. Okay. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Next application is 24-185 of David Penna, property located in West Babylon. We almost skipped you.
Yeah, I wish I owned OK Petroleum, that would have been nice.
Name and address for the record, please.
David Penna, 700 10th Street, West Babylon, New York.
Okay, and do you affirm to tell the truth?
Of course.
For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated October 15th, 2024, Environmental Control memo dated October 21st, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. Suffolk County Planning memo dated October 15th, 2024, decision of local determination, take no position for or against, tax map acting as an area map, and,
And Mr. Chairman, we have 4 photographs.
okay.
And Mr. Chairman, we have a memo from the Fire Marshal's Office dated October 24th, 2024. There are some comments. It's currently boarded up with no access, so any decision would be subject to their approval. And we are missing the affidavit of posting.
Okay. So,
The affidavit of
first
what?
thing, do you have the affidavit of posting?
Yes. Well, I emailed it also. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. What would you like to tell us about the application?
Just looking to renew it as a public garage.
Okay, so then, he's not here. We'll do it. John will do it.
Okay, you have intentions of reopening as an auto repair business again?
Yes, I'm not sure if myself or I'm going to lease it again, yes.
Okay, so it's either yourself or you're going to rent it out to. the last tenant was probably, obviously a problem.
For everybody, and I apologize about that, but you can't
No,
choose
beyond
the
your
tenant to
control.
do the
But
best you
You did
can.
something about it, so he's gone.
Thank you.
If it is approved based on, the fire marshal has to come in and inspect it, you agree to all the covenants and restrictions for public garage like you had previously?
Of course.
For as many years as you were there? A lot
Yes,
more.
since the 70s.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. He's always kept a good shop.
Any other questions?
Any new tenant would have to reapply for their own special exception permit?
Yes, I do. I am.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? Come on up.
Good
Name and
evening. My name's
address.
Harry Weed. I'm the owner of 614 4th Street, which is just 2 houses down from it. And his last tenant was an absolute horror show. The number of unregistered cars that sat for months up and down on 4th Street was a disgrace. You know, I'm just hoping that whatever tenant goes in there, we don't have the same problem and the same thing again. Because their cars, that, again, did not move, had no plates on them, had plates from other states, and these cars sat for months.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it wasn't even,
Definitely agree with you, and.
wasn't days, it was months.
Right, and he did address it and remedy the situation at this
I sent him
point.
many letters from the attorney that he wasn't, we're hearing.
Okay,
You just need to speak into the mic.
Many letters were sent to him that he wasn't agreeing to the terms of the lease or the covenant restrictions. It seemed to fall on deaf ears, so it was a process of just trying to evict him or get rid of him somehow.
took
And
you a
I
while-
apologize
So
for
it took
any
you a while to get him
inconvenience
out,
that
I'm
you had.
assuming?
Excuse me?
It took you a while to get him out, I'm assuming?
Yeah, yes, the courts are not that easy to go through, as we know.
Okay,
That's my only concern.
okay, thanks.
I
You
can
got
give
it.
you my number if you have any problems with any tenant, please. I have no problem talking to them. Okay, I'm just, you know, I was there for 35 years and never had an issue.
Okay.
thank you. Cross conversation, we
can
can't
take that
have
outside
right
when
now.
you're done,
We'll
thanks.
do that later on.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none, so we're going to close the hearing, we're going to reserve decision. You do need to get the fire marshal in there to get, you know, the memo over to us that everything is okay, so,
The fire marshal said as long as we make it subject to their approval.
up to their approval? Okay, okay, we're going to close the hearing, and reserve decision, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay. All right. Stuck in the mud. Next application is application 24-182 of OK Petroleum. Are we going to hear both of these together?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
Certainly. Allison Lapointe with the law firm Sir Tillman Ballin Adler Hyman, offices at 100 Motor Parkway, Hotbug, New York, 11788.
Okay, so for the record, we have a planning memo dated October 15th, 2024 on the 182 application. On the 184 application, we have a planning memo dated October 15th, 2024. We have a survey by David Hinson, dated 11/122 on both applications, a tax map acting as an area map on both applications, and Department of Environmental Control memo dated October 18, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. That is on the 184 application. We have on the, which one is this? 182 application. We also have the Department of Environmental Control memo. The proposed project includes allowing a new gas station. Okay. And lastly, we have a tax map acting as an area map. Okay. Would you like to tell us about the application?
And Mr. Chairman, we have 4 photographs.
Okay. Comes
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member of the boards. I am here today on behalf of the property owners, 1185 Straight Path Road LLC. The property is located on the corner of Straight Path Road and Fulton Street, as well as a third front yard on the paper road of Lakeway Drive in West Babylon. Thus far, this project has received site plan approval, special exception for convenience store, and waiver of landscaping requirements. That final approval was issued on August 12th, 2024, conditioned upon, of course, the granting of the variances before you this evening. The application also received a relief of covenant from the town board on August 7th, 2024. This is all in furtherance of demolishing the existing structures on the property, including 2 buildings and an existing canopy, and removing all of the fueling stations as well as the tanks, and then redeveloping the property. With me today, I do have Chris Tartaglia from High Point Engineering if you have any technical questions, and the property owner is also present. I would like to submit to the board a petition in favor of the overall redevelopment of this site with 75 signatures from neighboring residents, and I also, for the record, have the planning board and the town board resolutions. So our original application was submitted to the Planning Department in January of 2023. Since that time, we've been working very closely with the Planning Department to come up with the configuration of the site that is before you today. We have also met with the Belmet Lake Civic Association, and they are in favor of the redevelopment. I'm sure, as you can see from the images and the elevations that have been circulated, there will be a great improvement to the site. The property owner is seeking to put in a significant investment in his property, and the results will be quite beautiful. So the subject plan is for the gas station, which was first established in 1974 and has been local owner operated since that time. We're demolishing 3,397 square feet of existing structures, and again, removing the existing dispensers and canopies. The tanks will be removed as per Suffolk County Department of Health Services requirements. The proposal is to construct a single 2,492 square foot building with convenience store and install new gas and diesel dispensers, as well as 2 new canopies. We'll be, as you can see from the plan that's up right now, there's going to be over 100 new trees and plantings on the site. So again, beautification in work and significant landscape buffers along all of the residential property lines. Again, the site is owner operated and has been and will continue to be. And finally, the site has been operated for 24 hours a day since 1992 without incident. So the relief sought this evening, we do recognize that there are 14 variances before you, and we do ask your patience as we run through all of them. As I mentioned, this is a particularly difficult site as it is somewhat unique in that it has 3 frontages. While one of those frontages is a paper road that is unopened, there are 2 open frontages along Straight Path and Fulton. Because of that, it makes it a little difficult to design a site that does not require variance relief. So there's also a slightly non-customary building lot, as there is that jog in the back. So first, the relief related to the underlying use. There are 3 requests before this board relating to the underlying use. The first is permission for a gas station on Straight Path Road in Fulton, which is not permitted under the code, a gas station adjacent to a residential use, and a gas station within 2,000 feet of another gas station. Again, this gas station use was established in 1974. The reestablishment and the redevelopment of it in no way will have any negative impact on the nature and character of the community, and the only feasible alternative would be to completely abandon the use at the site, which is certainly not feasible. The second set of requests are related to the height, both of the proposed structure and the canopies. We are seeking an additional 2 feet on each of these structures. The subject building is proposed to be at 27 feet where 25 feet is permitted, and the canopy is sought at 22 feet where 20 feet are permitted. Both the building heights and the canopy heights are in part requested slightly higher due to the architectural nature of what the roof lines are looking like. Again, we've worked extensively with the planning department to make sure that the final product here is very aesthetically pleasing, and losing those 2 feet would have a significant impact on that. Further, there are additional constraints in terms of the canopy. There's a certain level of clearance that is required under the canopy. Then within the canopy, you'll find the fire suppression, which takes up a certain amount of room, and then again, the decorative upper level. If the 2 feet on the canopy were removed, the roof lines would no longer match that of the building, and again, there would be a significant aesthetic detriment to that. And again, what we're talking about here is an 8% variance in terms of the building and a 10% variance in terms of the canopy, and I put forth that those are very insubstantial requests. In terms of the setbacks are both related to the proposed building. The first is a 5-foot setback where 15 is required on the unopened portion of Parkway Drive, and a rear yard setback of 10 feet where 25 are required to the property owner directly behind it. Presently, with the 2 buildings on the property, one of the buildings does maintain a 5-foot setback. That building will be demolished, and we put forth that we'll now be increasing the setback to residential property by an additional 5 feet. Again, because of the unique nature of having the 3 front yards, there are limited locations where the building could go, and the rear yard area, that 10-foot setback, will be significantly and substantially vegetated for screening. In terms of parking, we're seeking a single space relief, 12 spaces where 13 are required. We fully expect the site to function quite well with that much parking. And the driveway location. So the code requires that the driveway that you can see on the upper left of your screen needs to be set further back from the neighboring property line. It needs to be 10 feet from the neighboring property line. We're proposing keeping a 5-foot setback. That is an existing curb cut. It should be noted, however, that the applicant was seeking to move that curb cut further away from the property line to conform, but along that sidewalk, there is a large utility pole with guy wires that, after extensive back and forth with PSEG said it could not be moved because that pole, if you go back to the Google Earth image, services the substation right across the street, which powers all of that local area. And so they could not move the pole, and they cannot move the guy wires, therefore we cannot move the curb cut. So there is no feasible alternative. I can tell you the property owner worked extensively trying to get that pole moved and to get the guy wires moved, but we can't make a utility do something they're not interested in doing. So that's the reason we're continuing to keep the curb cut in that location. I can say that curb cut is also being shortened, so the setback is actually increasing to what's there currently, and that 5 feet will be extensively planted to the property owner in the rear. The final relief before you today has to do with the tank and dispensers. There are code sections that limit the distances between said structures. We're seeking the fuel tank to be located 8.4 feet away from the dispenser island, where 10 feet is required. And we're also requesting the distance between parallel dispenser pumps to be 16 feet instead of 20 feet. As I've mentioned a number of times, the applicant has worked extensively with planning, as well as with planning's traffic engineers, to make sure that all function and circulation in this site will operate as depicted. There have been a number of revisions in the last year and a half, and the circulation for the site and the layout of the site, as is before you this evening, was the conclusion of all of those efforts. So we put forth that even with the granting of those reliefs, the site will function quite well. And then finally, which is in the second round of the approvals, which we're now doing together as one hearing, there is some very minimal sign relief. All of the signage on the site, with the exception of the monument sign, conforms to code. In terms of the monument sign, 2 of the 3 reliefs are incredibly minor. We're seeking 8 inches in additional height and 3 additional square feet. The sign is smaller in height and square footage as the existing signage is on the site today, so it'll be a significant increase in the aesthetic quality of the site. The other relief that is sought is the setback. Code requires the sign to be set back 10 feet, and we are proposing 3.6 feet. The reason for this setback is twofold. One, there was a triangular taking on that corner, which I believe was a 12-foot by 16-foot triangular dedication, I apologize, a dedication, which has decreased our setback from the property line. There's also a relatively deep width in the sidewalk. In functional reality, that sign will be set back over 18 feet from the roadway, so to the naked eye, it will appear to be a conforming sign. It's simply that on paper, it does not appear to conform. If we were to move that sign any further back, it would interrupt the circulation of the site, and also due to the speed of traffic on Straight Path and the amount of plantings that are going on the site, it would not be terribly visible. So while we recognize that it might be considered a numerically substantial request, in the functional reality and in the increased value to the character of the neighborhood, we put forth that it's not, in fact, substantial. And with that, we really do believe that this is going to be a significant positive change to the neighborhood. As you can see from the petition that was filed with you, the neighbors do agree. This application has gotten significant support throughout the town as we've traversed this year-and-a-half process. I do wish to note, we did receive all of the planning comment. We have no problem with any of the conditions except for the first condition, whereby there is a request that the zoning board be able to set the hours of operation. As I mentioned earlier, this site has operated for 24 hours since 1992, and if they're going to put in this much of an investment into the property to then have their hours curtailed would be a significant financial detriment. And with that, I'm available for any of your questions.
Okay, thank you. Turn hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
You referred to two buildings. Is I'm gonna, for lack, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna call it a warehouse on Fulton? Is that one of the structures that's being demolition?
Everything that's on the site
It's being demolition.
is being taken out.
You said two buildings, and I wasn't
So it's a
sure.
little hard to see from that because of the tree
I drove by
coverage.
and I
Yeah,
saw
so
it.
the white building that you're seeing on your screen now in the back, that's on our property, that is being demolished. And then right behind the canopy that's kind of covered by trees, there's another building, smaller building under there, which there is a survey submitted of existing conditions, so that should appear on both.
I don't know. What do you want to do about number one?
First, I have, for the record, we have a fire marshal's memo dated October 24th, 2024, that the application of the valid fire prevention permit. Sorry, I didn't do that earlier. So for clarity, I think the planning perspective for condition number one wasn't necessarily to impose the hours operation now, it's just to have that condition should a problem arise. The board has the ability to then enforce some kind of hours operation. That's our stance.
Respectfully understand your stance, but again, we respectfully ask that that condition be removed. We've been operating quite well in this location since 1992, and with the improvements that are going to be put forth, the operation will only be a further benefit to the community.
I think what they're saying is that can be operated as for 24 hours at this time, like it's been, but if there's any condition arose in the future, we would have the right to restrict it.
Again, I completely understand the position of the planning department, but again, respectfully, we have gone through both the planning board portion of this process and the town board portion of this process, fully expressing that the 24-hour operation would continue, and if we could get a positive result on our request without that, it would certainly be our preference.
No, I'm good, I'm fine.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. Okay, we're going to close the hearing. We're going to reserve decision. You'll get the decision in the mail. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Next application is application 24-188 of 45 Dale LLC, property located in West Babylon.
Good evening, Chairman Kane, and members for the board. For the record, I'm Mark Garabrandt with law offices at 692 South Wellwood Avenue here in Lentonhurst. I represent the applicant this evening, 45 Dale LLC.
For the record, we have a planning division memo dated October 15, 2024. Survey by Frank Ward, last dated May 2nd, 2013. Environmental control memo dated October 23rd, 2024. Seeker is pending. A tax map acting as an area map,
And Mr. Chairman, we have 4 photographs.
And we have a memo from the fire marshal dated October 24th, 2024, with some comments. Any decision would be subject to fire marshal approval.
Okay. What would you like to tell us about the application?
Yes, before I begin, I just wanted to introduce, so I know you well, Harold Gebhardt, the project's architect, who's here to answer any technical questions you might have, as well as Glenn Ferrante. Glenn is a member of both 45 Dale LLC, which is the owner of the property, as well as Paragon Recycling and Transfer Corp., which has operated the transfer station at this location over the years. My client's premises are located at 45 and 53 Dale Street in West Babylon, which are tax map numbers 174-2, lots 23.08 and 22 respectively. They're located on the east side of Dale Street, approximately 242.6 feet north of the north side of Edison Avenue. The premises have a street frontage of 267.8 square feet, and, I'm sorry, 267.8 feet, and are up to 225 feet deep. The subject parcels are located in the GB Industrial and combined for a total of 58,825 square feet, or 1.3 acre. I also note that the subject parcels are also located within the area delineated on the most recent GIS map entitled Permissible Locations within Babylon for transfer stations and recycled materials, management facilities dated May 4th of 2016 and on file with the town clerk's office. The adjacent parcels to the east, north, and south are zoned G or GB Industrial and contain a number of industrial uses. Similarly, the parcels on the west side of Dale Street are also zoned GB Industrial, and they also contain a number of industrial uses as well. All of these parcels are also included on that GIS map for permissible transfer stations. On October 7th of this year, early this month, we appeared at a public hearing before the Planning Board in connection with our application under Planning Board Job Number 23-31A, to restore the existing transfer station, which was damaged in a fire in July of 2012, to legalize the expansion of the transfer station used from lot 23.008, which is 45 Dale Street, to an adjoining parcel immediately to the north of that, which is tax lot 22, which is 53 Dale Street. Subdivide the original approved site plan dating back to 1993 to no longer include tax lot 23.011, which is 35 Dale Street, which is located immediately south of 45 Dale Street. Also, we were requesting to lift previously imposed town board CNRs, which were imposed over 30 years ago under Planning Board Job Number 91026AI, which limit not only the ownership of the property and the operation of the facility as a transfer station to specific family members who then owned the property at the time, but also limited who was allowed to bring materials to the site, as well as the types of materials which may be brought to the site. The Planning Board reserved decision pending revised plans, but that being said, I'd like to believe that the application was well received. No one appeared at the Planning Board hearing in opposition or to speak in opposition to the application. With respect to the revised plans which the Planning Board is requesting, I note that one of the comments or requests that was made in the planning memo was that we represent that none of the revisions will affect the variances which we are requesting tonight. And as best I can tell, none of those requested revisions will have any effect on the variances that we are requesting. I just want to note that at the planning board hearing, I did lay out my reasons for referring the matter to the town board for the removal of those aforementioned covenants and restrictions. I'd be glad to go into that in greater detail if you'd like, but I submit I don't believe it's something necessarily that you have to hear this evening. Before I address the actual variances themselves, I'd just like to give you a little background and history about the property and its use as a transfer station. Again, 45 Dale Street, which is tax lot 2308, which is part of this application, and 35 Dale Street, which was tax lot 23.011, again, which is immediately south to 45 Dale, originally received approval to operate a transfer station under Planning Board Job Number 91026AI. Significantly, when that permission was granted, there was no time duration placed on our permission to operate. And presumably, we could have continued ad infinitum without having to come before the board. My client actually purchased 53 Dale, which was not included in the original application, after we received our planning board approval back in '93. As a practical matter, that tax lot 23.011, which we required to subdivide per the planning board, planning department, I should say, was never used as a part of the transfer station. The premises suffered a fire in July of 2012. In 2013, my client commenced the application process to rebuild the transfer station on 45 and 53 Dale, excluding the original 35 Dale. On July 18th of 2016, under Planning Board Job Number 13-44A, the Planning Board approved my client's site plan for the rebuild of the transfer station on 45 and 53 Dale. And on March 17, 2016, this board approved all requested variances, including a special permit to operate the transfer station for 5 years. Again, the original 35 Dale Street, or tax lot 23.011, was not part of those approvals. I note that at the time that we made that application, there was no subdivision requirement in connection with that application, but now the planning department deems it appropriate that we actually request a subdivision of the tax lot 23.011 as part of this application. Sadly, because my client's personal and financial circumstances, at the time we received these approvals in 2016, we weren't able to rebuild the facility, and that's what's brought us here today. Tonight, we have a slightly different site plan, which was originally approved back in 2016. The original 7,005 square foot construction and demolition processing building, which is in the rear of the property, is going to remain. We eliminated a proposed 1,041 square foot baler area, which was located on the north side of the then proposed transfer building, as that will now be housed within the proposed 14,000 square foot transfer building, which we're proposing. Additionally, under the 2016 approval, there were several compactors which were to be located outside and to the north side of the proposed transfer building, which have all been eliminated in this application. The 2016 plans also provided for 3 ramps, one which is located in the proposed transfer building on the northwest corner, and 2 others immediately north of the proposed transfer building on the west and east side of the building. Under the current proposal, there's going to be but 1 ramp, which is located inside the proposed 14,000 square foot transfer building, which is going to be located in the northwest corner of the building. So although we've actually expanded the size of the transfer station from 10,100 square feet, which was approved back in 2016, to 14,000 square feet, I submit that by housing some of the outside features of the prior plan, inside the building itself, that the impact of the increased size of the transfer station is not as significant as it might otherwise appear. Furthermore, we believe that by housing the baler inside the building itself is going to be environmentally more sound. The proposed transfer station is going to have insulated wall panels. The building is to be 175 by 80 feet with a peak height of 42 feet. As you can see from the plans that have been submitted, we're going to now enter the property on the south side of the property and exit on the north side of the property after receiving a ticket from the person who's, after there's going to be scales on either side when you come in, and after you drive into one of the trip areas, whether it's going to be the construction and demolition or municipal solid waste. If you tip it, you'll go then around to the north side of the building. There's going to be another scale there. And that's what that additional 10 by 20 building, or third building, if you will, is going to house. We provided for a couple of handicap parking spaces in the front. I do note that there was a traffic study done by Cameron Engineering, and they found that the application was going to have a negligible trip generation increase and does not actually warrant a traffic study. They also had no objection to the requested parking variances. I note that in their report, they indicated their experience was that transfer stations have very low traffic per 100 square feet, and when buildings are rebuilt, even if they are expanded, the aim is to modernize and streamline the on-site operation and activity, and change will not have a high impact traffic flow or require a traffic study. And this modernization and streamlining is what we're hoping to accomplish with this application. As to the various variances and the special permit, which we were requesting to operate a transfer station, as I indicated, although we were previously granted a permission to operate a transfer station without duration, and again received a permit back in 2016 for 5 years. Now under the revised code, we need to obtain a special permit from the ZBA to operate a transfer station and continue to operate it as we have done since 1993. As to the increasing the building height from 35 feet to 42 feet, my client advises me, Mr. Ferrante could tell you more about it if you have any questions, but that the industry itself has changed significantly over the past several years. And the sorting equipment that he's been looking at, which is hopefully going to allow for a cleaner product, is multi-leveled, belted system, and not only but the operation, but the installation of it, which requires cranes to actually put it inside the building, and also the maintain it requires that there be ample space and the roof line accordingly in order to service this. And that's why we're requesting the variance from 35 feet to 42 feet. I believe that there is precedent for such height variances. I note that the town zoning board granted a height variance to Winter Brothers in May of 2002 under case number 02254 to increase the building height from 35 feet to 40 feet in connection with the special exception approval for a transfer station at 19 Nancy Street in West Babylon. Then again, in August of 2007, the zoning board again granted a variance to Winter Brothers under case number 07 of 164 for that Nancy Street operation to increase the building height from 35 feet to 57.2 feet for exhaust fans on the rooftop in connection with their renewal at that time of the special permit for a transfer station. As to the increase, the number of the buildings from 1 to, which is permitted under the code, to 3, back in 2016, we were approved for the 2. As I indicated, there's going to be a 20 by 10-foot new scale house container, if you will, which is going to be situated on the north side of the building. We originally had all the traffic under the 16 application all the traffic was going in on the south side. If there's one thing that I've learned, and I think everybody has had it in mind, including the planning department, is traffic flow is very significant here. So now what we're doing is having everybody enter on the south side, and they're going to leave on the north side. This trailer, if you will, is necessary because, as I mentioned before, the ramp is going to be in the northwest side of the building. And if you can see the plans behind, that goes very deep into that side of the building. And behind it, there will be equipment which is actually loading up, and it would be impossible to have some kind of a station, if you will, locator, or even a window at that point where somebody could give a ticket to somebody who's leaving the facility. So that is the reason why we're requesting this 10 by 20 trailer. And again, I submit in light of with the balers that were going to be installed, the compactors that were going to be outside the premise on the 16 application, I think this request is hopefully you'll conceive it as de minimis. We also need a variance to allow 2 parking stalls in the front yard, not located in the front of the building. One of these is going to be a handicap parking space. We thought this was the best place to put it, in the front of the building, obviously away from where people are going to be coming in and tipping, and this just made the most practical sense. As to the off-street parking variance, 43 spaces are required, 28 are proposed. Frankly, we don't have much need for parking. When I spoke with Mr. Ferrante about it, we may have 8 people working there at any time would be the most. So there's not much need for parking on the premises. And I believe that the evidence indicates this prior zoning board application was made by Winter Brothers in September of 2018 under application 18-161, again for that 19 Nancy Street, West Babylon application, which diminished the off-street parking from 28 parking spaces to 8 parking spaces. Lastly, the last variance that we're requesting is for landscaping. It requires 4,820.4 square feet. We have 4,317.67 square feet, which is more than 89% of the required landscape area. And I submit is considerably more than the 3,181 square feet, which had been approved by the board in 2016. My client is mindful of all the recommended planning conditions which seek to mitigate dust, noise, and odor, and is fully on board with taking whatever steps are necessary to implement those. So at this point, I'll leave it for questions.
Okay, thank you. Turn the hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you very much. Very nice. Very well done.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
If we were to approve this, would you agree to the 7 conditions on the planning memo?
Yes, yes. The one that was just issued today?
Yeah. You have a copy?
Yes, I do. Yes, we went over that. That's not a problem.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. Need to hold this. Need a fire marshal? Okay. Oh, this is still in planning board?
Well, no, they have not rendered a decision. No, we have to, they requested revised plans.
Okay.
Again, I don't think they're that significant.
So we're going to hold the applicant. We're going to close the record, close the hearing, reserve decision, and you'll get the decision in the mail.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for coming down.
Have a good night.
That ends the live streaming portion of the